Okay, let's unpack this. We all have this very specific, almost cinematic image in our heads of what a responsible business owner looks like. You know the vibe I'm talking about.
I think I do, yeah.
It's late at night, the office is quiet, there's a single lamp casting this, warm glow over a big desk. Maybe they've got their reading glasses perched on their nose, and what are they doing?
They're reviewing the P&L line by line.
Meticulously, line by line, reviewing the profit and loss statement from the last month, checking all the boxes, balancing the books, making sure everything adds up.
It's a comforting image. It feels diligent.
Yeah.
It feels safe.
Exactly. It feels like you're properly adulting in the business world. But this is where it gets really interesting. We've got a stack of research here, and specifically a really compelling article from Greystride called Why Monthly Financial Reviews Are Not Enough in Trucking.
Hmm.
And it basically takes that image of the diligent owner at their desk and just sets it on fire.
It really does. It completely tears that idea apart.
It argues that if you're running a trucking business and you're relying on that monthly ritual, that so-called responsible habit might actually be negligence. The source even calls it a trap, which, when I first read that, I thought, come on.
Yeah, that's a strong word.
How can checking your numbers, the foundation of business, be a trap?
It sounds harsh, I know. Calling it a trap feels completely counterintuitive, but you have to look at the context. The argument isn't that knowing your numbers is bad. Of course it's not. It's about the cadence.
The speed.
The speed of information versus the speed of reality. The article makes this really strong case that the heartbeat of the trucking industry is just way too fast for a monthly checkup.
I like that phrase, the heartbeat of the industry, because if I'm running, say, a bookstore, my world is pretty stable, right? My rent is the same, my software costs are the same, it's a steady rhythm. But
Trucking is volatile by definition. It doesn't have a steady rhythm. It has arrhythmia. It operates daily, sometimes hourly. Think about a standard month for a fleet owner. The price of diesel might spike. 3 tires could blow out on some highway in Arizona.
a client cancels a load while the truck is already halfway there.
Exactly. A radiator cracks 500 miles from the nearest mechanic. None of that happens on a schedule you can plan for.
Right. You can't put radiator blows up on your Google Calendar for the 15th.
No. And because the industry moves that fast, waiting for a monthly report is, well, it's financial suicide.
So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out why that rearview mirror approach is failing so many logistics companies. And, maybe more importantly, how shifting to real-time visibility can take a fleet owner from being constantly stressed out to actually being in control.
Precisely. We're dissecting the difference between reacting to the crash and, steering to avoid it in the first place.
Let's get right into that central metaphor the article uses, because it's honestly perfect. They compare monthly financial reviews to driving down the highway while only looking in the rearview mirror.
It's a terrifying image, isn't it? Just picture it. You're behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler, fully loaded, doing 65. You need to see the road ahead. But instead, you are fixated on the road behind you.
And the mirror shows you where you've been with perfect clarity.
Crystal clear. You see every mile marker you passed, but it tells you absolutely nothing about the cliff you're about to drive off of.
And in business terms, looking back is that P&L statement you get at the end of the month. It tells you what already happened.
Right. And in logistics, history doesn't help you survive the present. By the time you see that damage in a report, say a massive spike in maintenance costs, it's way too late. That money is gone.
So if you wait until the end of the month to realize a single breakdown cost you your entire margin for that week, you've basically been driving blind for weeks. You thought you were making money, but you were actually hemorrhaging it.
Exactly. You're operating on a lag.
Yeah.
And in a low-margin business like trucking, a lag is fatal.
Which leads to those complaints that I think a lot of listeners will recognize. The source quotes owners saying things like, the work is there, but the money is tight.
Or the classic one, we are extremely busy, but the bank balance keeps dropping.
That's the one that gets me. Busy but broke. It feels like a paradox. If my wheels are turning, I should be earning. And then the final realization, the numbers only make sense after it's too late.
It's that tragic feeling of looking at a report and going, oh, that's why we're in the red. But the cash is already out the door.
You're solving a murder mystery instead of preventing the crime.
And that disconnect, being busy but broke, that's usually a structural issue. It brings us to the second major point from Greystride, which is probably the most critical part of this whole thing, the cash flow disconnect.
Right, let's get into the nuts and bolts here. Because to an outsider, profit and cash sound like the same thing. If I made a profit, I have cash, right? What's so different about trucking?
It all comes down to the huge imbalance between outflow and inflow. I mean, in a coffee shop, you hand me a latte, I hand you $5. It's immediate.
Instant.
The cost of the milk and the revenue happen within seconds. In trucking, there's a massive gap. Think about the expenses. When do you pay for fuel?
Right away.
Yeah.
You don't pump diesel on a promise. You have a fuel card with maybe a 7-day term, but it's basically immediate.
Exactly. The tank is full before the truck moves. That's hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars up front. What about your driver?
They need to get paid weekly or biweekly at the latest. You can't tell them, hey, I'll pay you when the client pays me.
They'd walk. So you have all these huge immediate costs, fuel, wages, sudden repairs. Cash is physically leaving your business every single day. But now look at the other side. When does the client actually pay you?
The source says typical terms are net 30, net 45. I've even seen net 60.
That's the gap. You are effectively acting as a bank for your client for 2 months. You've paid for the fuel, the driver, the insurance, and you won't see a dime for that job for weeks.
So on paper, I might look great. My P&L for the month says, congratulations, you did a job for $2,000, your costs were $1,800, you made $200 profit.
Correct. On paper, you're profitable. In your bank account, you're down $1,800. You're technically dying. This is the expert insight here. Profit is an accounting theory. Cash flow is reality.
And if you're not watching that gap every day, you could run out of cash to buy fuel for tomorrow's load, even though you're owed 50 grand.
That is the busy but broke phenomenon in a nutshell. It's the #1 killer of small fleets.
This leads right into what the article calls the silent erosion of profit. This is so key because we think of business failures as these big dramatic events, a warehouse fire or something.
Right, something loud, a catastrophe you definitely notice.
But the article argues that in trucking, problems rarely show up like that. Instead, they creep. They sneak in quietly between those monthly reviews.
It's the boiling frog effect. The text gives some great examples. Take a fuel overrun. Maybe a driver takes a route that's a bit hillier, and fuel efficiency drops by 5%. On one trip, it's not a disaster, it's $20.
Or a tire cost that's just a little higher than you budgeted, or, maintenance costs are just ticking up on an older truck.
Driver standing time is a huge one. Detention time. A driver sits at a warehouse for 4 hours waiting to get unloaded. If you don't catch that and bill for it immediately, that's just dead money. You paid a driver to sit there.
And then there's the client who always pays just 1 week late. Every single month, they push that net 30 to a net 37.
Exactly. In isolation, $100 here, a delayed payment there. They seem manageable. You might just shrug it off. But over 30 days, they accumulate.
Yeah.
By the time you sit down for that responsible monthly review, those little leaks have drained the entire pool.
And the scary part is, because you waited, your question is always reactive. You're looking at the damage, asking what went wrong.
Instead of asking, how do we stop this right now? That's the entire shift. If you catch a fuel overrun on day 2, you can adjust the route for the rest of the month. If you catch it on day 30, that money is literally burnt. It went out the smokestack.
This whole cycle of finding out bad news too late, that has to take a psychological toll on the owner, right? It just sounds exhausting.
Oh, absolutely. The article calls it decision-making in the fog. When you don't have real-time data, you're not operating on facts. You're running on gut feel, on pressure, on urgency. You're just guessing.
It's the stress factor. You're making these huge decisions and just hoping you're right. The text lists these specific questions that owners have to answer instantly. Things like, can you afford to take on a new load?
Which seems like a simple yes, right? More work is always better. But without real-time data, you don't know if taking that load will drain your cash reserves for fuel before that payment comes in. You could take the job and cripple yourself.
Another one was, is a contract actually profitable, or is it just keeping trucks busy? That hit me hard. The idea that busy work can actually be dangerous.
It's maybe the most dangerous thing in this business. Keeping trucks moving feels productive. It feels like success. But if the rate doesn't cover the real-time cost of everything, you are basically paying for the privilege of moving someone else's freight.
You are driving yourself into bankruptcy, 1 mile at a time.
And then the everyday stuff. Should this truck be repaired or replaced? Is our cash flow strong enough to survive if this big client pays late? You can't answer those questions with a report that's 3 weeks old.
You're just guessing. And in an industry with margins this thin, guessing is a fatal strategy.
You're not running the business. The business is running you.
Okay, so we've established a problem. The rearview mirror is bad. but I can just hear the listeners right now, especially the really busy owners, groaning. They're thinking, great, you want me to monitor everything in real time? I barely have time to sleep.
That's the admin myth. It's the biggest barrier to change. They hear daily monitoring, and they just imagine drowning in spreadsheets and receipts.
Right, turning into a full-time accountant.
But the source is really clear on this. Effective monitoring is about visibility, not complexity. You do not need to analyze every single receipt every single day. You just need to watch the vital signs.
The article breaks it down into 4 pillars, the numbers that truly drive the business. So number 1 is cash flow.
Simple. Cash in versus cash out, not profit.
Right.
Cash. What's in the bank? What has to be paid tomorrow? Can we make payroll Friday? It's like checking the weather before you go outside.
Number 2, efficiency.
Specifically, your cost per kilometer or cost per mile. This is your core efficiency metric. If that number creeps up, you need to know why immediately. Is it the truck, the driver, the route? You track the rate, not every single bolt.
Got it. Number 3 is trends.
You're looking at your big 3 costs: fuel, maintenance, and tires. Are we seeing a spike in fuel usage? Why? Are tires failing faster on a specific route? You want to spot the spike the day it happens, not the end of the month.
And the last one, number 4, behavior.
This one is so often overlooked. Debtors and payment behavior. Who owes you money and are they on time? If a client who always pays in 30 days suddenly slips to 40, you need to be on the phone with them now, not next month.
So the takeaway is you don't need a 10-page report. You just need a quick dashboard check, like glancing at the speedometer in your car.
Exactly. It takes minutes, not hours. But, and this is a really crucial distinction, the text makes monitoring alone changes nothing.
Right. This is the adaptation part. You can stare at the gas gauge all you want, but if you don't actually pull over and get gas, you're still going to run out.
Precisely. The source argues that adaptation is where profit is protected. The value of seeing the data early isn't just knowing the bad news sooner. It's that it buys you time to act. It gives you agility.
So what does that look like in practice? Let's say I spot that trend fuel costs on the Chicago run are spiking. What do I actually do?
You have options. You can renegotiate the rate with the client. You can ask for a fuel surcharge. Or you could look at the route itself. Is there construction? Is there a better way? Or maybe it's a driver issue, like excessive idling.
Or if you see maintenance costs for one truck are blowing out, you might decide to park that truck instead of sinking another $2,000 into it.
Yes. The struggle for many businesses, the article says, isn't a lack of effort. Owners work incredibly hard. The struggle is knowing what to change and when to change it.
So it's about moving from just working hard to working smart through data. It sounds like a cliche, but here it's literally survival.
It's about resilience. The text concludes by saying that resilient businesses don't wait 30 days. They build habits of continuous monitoring. This replaces uncertainty with clarity. You can make confident decisions.
That shift from stress to control seems to be the ultimate promise here. It's not just about making more money, it's about sleeping better at night.
Absolutely. The challenges aren't going away. Tires will still blow. Fuel will still spike. But if you have visibility, those are just problems to solve, not mysteries that bankrupt you.
So, to summarize what we've unpacked, if your trucking business feels incredibly busy, but the money is always tight, the issue probably isn't demand. It's a visibility and timing problem.
You're likely looking in the rearview mirror while the cash flies out the window. The shift to checking those 4 key metrics, cash flow, efficiency, trends, and behavior, allows you to catch that creep of costs before it's too late.
And it doesn't mean drowning in paperwork. It just means building a quick daily habit so you can adapt.
Right. It's about being proactive instead of reactive.
Before we sign off, I want to leave the listener with one final thought. We've used a lot of driving analogies today.
We have. And I think there's one more that really drives this home. Think about it this way. If you're driving from New York to LA, you wouldn't check your GPS once a month. You check it constantly to avoid traffic to find fuel. You'd never reach your destination if you only checked it once.
That's a powerful question.
So why are you treating your business's financial navigation any differently?
It's the same journey. It needs the same level of guidance, something for you all to think about. What silent costs might be creeping into your operation right now that you won't see for another 3 weeks? Maybe it's time to stop looking in that rearview mirror. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Drive safe and keep your eyes on the road ahead.